Hello. I just wanted to give you a quick heads up to say that we had a little bit of an audio problem right at the beginning with our guest's microphone, but it only lasts a couple of minutes, so we restarted the recording and it's all fine. So if you can just bear with, it'll all be good in the end. So enjoy the episode. Thank you. Hello, welcome to episode 28 of Photowalk Talk, the Photowalk and Photography podcast. I'm Martin, and with me, as always, is my co-host Sandeep. How are you, Sandeep? You all right?
Yeah, I'm all good, thank you. Keeping well. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, all the better for having another guest. We're on a run of guests, which I think is what people prefer, rather than just listening to us.
Yeah.
To
And as I say,
nothing.
every other week, not every week, is Martin's bored of just talking to me, so likes a third person there
Exactly. So it's been
to
good.
improve the conversation.
Exactly. Well, because I never do any photography, so I've never got anything to talk about. So, for a man who has a website about photography and a podcast about photography, I do very little of it at the moment. So, and talking of which, so let's introduce our guests. We've got Mary Jo Richards from Baltimore. I've just found out. How are you, Mary? Sorry, I'll call you Mary Jo because that's your name. Sorry. How are you?
I'm doing quite well, thank you. And I do go by Mary Jo. There were a lot of Marys in my family, so we tend to use both the first and the middle.
Good. As long as I just want to make sure I get it right. Yeah, it's good to have you on. It's nice. We kind of know you through Blue Sky. We'll do our normal thing of talk about what we've been doing recently. We'll start with Sandeep because we normally do. He's usually done something at the very least.
I always think this is, when you go into the office, office wherever on a Monday, someone says, "What do you do at the weekend?" I'm of the age where I have to think about what did I do literally the day before and the day before that. So every time you ask me this, I always have to pause and think, what did I do? So I was in London on Saturday and was carrying around. I've had film in my Olympus for a while now, so finally finished that roll of film off. So the Olympus is, all my cameras are now empty, which is a big thing. So I can now think about, right, what do I want to do next? What do I want to photograph next? Need to send that one away, see how it went. I was carrying the 100mm lens that I bought recently for most of the shots to try and see how it came out. I think the weekend before, this is what I mean, I don't know. I think the weekend before I was in Brighton. And if I was taking photographs around Brighton on the same roll with the same camera. So that was good. Other things sort of photography related, the weather seems to be improving. So I'm looking to try, and especially now the clocks have changed, to put in a photo walk meetup after work in London. So I think it's difficult. I know it is for me at weekends to do sort of photo walks, but do an after work one, see if we can get a few people out around Soho, South Bank, Waterloo, wherever. I'll work it out. So look out for that at some point in May. I'm sure we'll announce the details on here. And then I think I've spoken before. I've sold a couple of cameras now. Sold my Fuji X100 VI because I wasn't taking many shots with it. It was just sitting there. I sold my Contax G2, which is one I think I probably will regret because that is a great camera. But again, wasn't using enough of it. I still have my Nikon S3 up for sale because it's such a specialist camera, having a little trouble selling. That's fine. I'm not in any rush. And then I'll be left with the two Olympi, is it? Olympuses? The OM1, the 40i, and I've obviously got the Hasselblad, which I need to get out and about with more. And I may reinvest the proceeds of the sales of those three when the third one finally sells, and finally jump into the Red Dot, because that's the one camera I've never tried, see what it's like. But I don't know. But that's my... Oh, the other thing is, there's a guy on Blue Sky, Aldav, Australian guy, used to live in Cambridge. He's been shooting a couple of infrared SFX photos, and there's someone else buying the film. And I've got an Fuji X10, the digital, the little pocket one, that I had converted to, the sensor converted to infrared a few years back, and I've used it a lot. It's actually quite nice. I'm going to, this year, have it fully charged every day pocketed in my bag, because I think that's a really good little camera to carry around and take. And I specifically chose the black and white infrared sensor. Wasn't worried about color infrared. So you can get some really good deep blacks, strong whites, good contrasts, and I love a good contrasty photo.
Yeah,
So I'm
me
going
too.
to start carrying that around a little bit more. So, and that's, you know, in my pocket, even though going to work and all my travels and all the rest of it. So yeah, that's my little update.
Excellent. Yeah, well, I haven't, as usual, I've done virtually nothing photography wise. I keep meaning to go out and just haven't had time for other things have kept happening, and it's just yeah, it's passed me by again for another couple of weeks, but hopefully soon. Next weekend I won't be going anywhere, because next weekend I'm finally going to sort out my stepdad's old cameras. My mum has sold her house and is moving. So it's now
So
become
you've
sort
got
of
a
urgent.
proper
It's been
deadline.
it's been like 2 years since my stepdad had passed away, and he's got hundreds of these old cameras in this cupboard that need to be sorted out. So on this weekend coming, I will be spending my time doing that, sorting through those, seeing what's worth selling, seeing what's worth giving to charity shops. Again, that's where he got most of them, and anything else, and see if I can sell any of them for my mum to give us some money for it. And yeah, so that'll be my next weekend. So I won't be doing much photography wise, but
Well,
yeah,
still
hopefully
photography wise.
soon. Yeah. But eventually I might actually get out with a camera and actually take some pictures, but we'll see. How about you, Mary Jo? I noticed you've done the FP4 party, so I know you've been doing that. I think I did the very first one of those many, many years ago, and do like FP4.
Yes, yes, I did. I have to say, I've sort of made a return to photography after a 35-year absence. I was in photography in my teens and like it down as I got toward my 30s and digital came. And last year, I was in a thrift store and I picked up a film, and then I just kind of dove into it, and um, I started acquiring cameras. And so the past couple of weeks, I've been sort of paring down, and I've been selling on eBay because I've gotten and the collection has gotten out of hand. I live in a very small space, and I can't have all these cameras. I'm tripping. I had bought a few digitals, and I really find really the film cameras are what I'm interested in. And so, I've gotten rid of the Micro Four Thirds Olympus that I had, the Olympus Pen one. I had a couple of little Digicam, got rid of the Digicam, and I got rid of some of the film that I had as well. And so I did a lot over the weekend. I did a lot of packaging things up and, getting to the post office and that sort of thing. But I also acquired a rather large lot of expired Instax film through Shop Goodwill, and color, and sort of just in time for Polaroid Week. And I have both wide or actually wide square and at Instax cameras. And so now I'm all set to shoot for Polaroid Week this week. And I actually went out today because I didn't have to go to campus today. So I had a little time and I was out running errands anyway. So I went out today and shot a little bit of Instax, um, and just to test and see if that expired film was any good. And I figured it would be. It was only expired 2023. And I
Oh
understand
yeah,
better
I think
than,
that'll be fun. Yeah.
yeah. And it seemed the colors seemed good. Um, so, and I have gotten it in my head. My latest acquisition that I have fallen in love with has been an Argus C3 Matchmatic, the brick, and which is one of those cameras that people love or they hate, I gather. And I seem to love it. And so I decided that I'm make converts of people to the C, and so I have acquired a number of these, and I because apparently they're not too hard to work on, and so I'm gonna fix them up and get them into the hands of some of my, film, and so now I have a big box of Argus C things sort of growing and accumulating, and so I think over the summer, gonna be one of my projects is, trying to fix up old Argus C3s and reskin them nice and find homes for them, adopt them out if you
Fabulous. So yeah, that's what you've been up to. So tell us a bit more about yourself and how you so you said you got back into photography. So obviously you were into photography at some point in the past, and then and sort of fell out of it. So tell us a bit more about where it started and how you got back into it again.
Well, it started, I guess I was about 17 or 18 years old, and this would have been in the late 1980s. And I was working, I'm from Texas originally, and I was working and I'm from a little small town in Texas, and I was working at a Radio Shack franchise. And our Radio Shack franchise happened to have a 1 hour photo processing machine, and I was trained to run that 1 hour photo processing machine. And so it was a C41 processing machine. And it was fully automated. Really, what I had to do was, sort of stick the film canisters in and stick my hands in the sleeves and, take the film out of the canisters and put them on the reels and then start the machine. And then my job was to calibrate the machine and then take the prints out the other end of the machine and pack them up and make sure that they looked right and get them to the customer and that sort of thing. And so really, that was a big part of my job, was running that photo processing machine. And in dealing with the customers, I encountered one customer who I expressed to him, I said, you take really beautiful pictures. I wish I could do this sort of thing. And he said, "Oh, do you have a camera?" And I said, "No, I don't have a camera." And he said, "Well, let me give you one." And so, like like like
Yeah.
film people are, we're just a bunch of enablers. And and so he gave me this 35 millimeter fixed focus camera that sort of looked like an SLR but was not an SLR, one of those. I think it was Capital, I think was the brand of it, if I remember correctly. And very quickly, I sort of outgrew that camera, and I went to a local camera shop there in my hometown, and I found, actually, it wasn't in my hometown, it was the next town over, and I found a Yashica Electro rangefinder. So I got a rangefinder as sort of my next step up. And then from there, I ended up with Yashica FX7 SLR. And so that was sort of my entree. And then I really kind of got cooking once I got the SLR, and I was taking pictures of everything, and I got really into it. And I got a few things published in my college literary magazine and like local paper and a couple of things like that. And I won a prize here or there in like small time sorts of contests and things. Nothing major, but and I enjoyed it. I would print things and have them framed and give them as gifts and that sort of thing. It was an enjoyable hobby. I didn't really see it as something that I was going to pursue as a career or anything like that, but I really did enjoy it, and I enjoyed looking for images. Everywhere I went, I would kind of see images, and I would be very sorry if I didn't have a camera on me because I feel like I'd missed an opportunity for a photograph. And then I guess about the time I was about 30 or so, I just sort of put the camera down, and I didn't go back to it, and I got rid of my camera equipment. And I guess that was about the time, we were making the transition to digital, about that period. That was about, the 2000s. And then, like I said, it was just last year that I happened to pick up a film camera again, and very quickly, and and the camera I picked up at the thrift store actually turned out to not work.
Ah,
But I was so disappointed that it didn't work that right away I got on eBay and I found another Yashica FX7 that did work. I wanted my old camera back. And so I got a Yashica FX7 and I was so excited to have a camera again and started taking pictures right away. And of course, now it was much more complicated to take pictures because now you had to figure out where to get your film developed, you know?
Yeah.
And it wasn't the simple affair that it had been when I first started, when all I had to do was take my pictures into work and run them through the machine myself. uh, and it was all quite easy. And now the very first pictures I had, I guess I Googled, where to send off pictures, and the first place to pop up was the dark room out in California, and so I sent them out there. But soon I realized that there were local photo labs here in Baltimore, and so I started using the local photo labs. And after a couple of months of doing that, I realized I could do this more cheaply if I developed at home. And so I started developing at home, and I started with black and white. And then next thing you know, I thought, well, I'll give color a try. And so I got the necessary gear to do C41 process. And I haven't done as much of that as I've done black and white. Black and white is just so easy. That I tend to do a lot more of that than I do C41, waiting for the chems to warm up and then shooting enough of the color to use the chems
Yeah.
before they go off is a challenge for me as well. I just don't shoot enough color to. Right now. I'm in the middle of saving color film so I can whip up
do
a
a
batch of color chems
bulk
and
developing. Yeah.
but do the bulk developing. But yeah, I guess as a photographer, being frugal about it has been kind of a goal. So I've been developing at home quite a bit. I've been bulk loading my film. I've been, the cameras that I choose are largely inexpensive cameras and cameras that I have sort of um, salvaged, that sort of thing. And so I've tried to keep it as, and I do my own scanning as well as my own developing, and then doing my own printing where possible. Not darkroom printing. I don't have the
Yeah.
facility for that. I'm in a
Yeah.
tiny little space, so we've got one bathroom, and if I took that over for a darkroom, I think that would be it. I think my husband would throw his hands up and say, "That's it. This photography
Enough.
thing is gone too." He's been very, very supportive of the of my camera habit. but but if he couldn't get into the bathroom when he needed to get into the bathroom,
Yeah, that might be the
there
last
might be a
straw.
conversation.
So let's start with you. You sort of said you sold your digital stuff to go back to film, which you talked about the cameras. What's the difference for you? What did you feel was missing, I guess, from
Well,
photographing with a digital
I
camera?
guess I can't say that I've gotten rid of all my digital because I still have my Charmera, which I
Yeah.
love.
Yeah, me too.
Me too.
And I have my iPhone, which, I use all the time to take snaps of
Agree. Yeah.
things. Um, but I guess I don't want to, it's such a hotly debated thing in the
Yeah,
photography
look, we don't need
world
to get
about,
into is one better than the other because I don't
yeah,
think there
I'm not
is.
trying to
It's nothing
rehash
about that.
that.
It's what works
Yeah,
for each person.
I guess I when I have a film camera in my hand, um, I just see the world a bit differently, and I don't really know how to describe that. People talk a lot about taking their time and, deliberating a bit more, and I guess I tend to do that a bit more. And I guess I know that if I have a digital camera in my hand, it's so much more forgiving in terms of the light and the conditions, and it'll let me take pretty much any picture I want under any conditions that I want to take it. That I kind of take that for granted. And I know that if I have my film camera in my hand, I've got to work a bit harder at it. in that I'm constrained by the film that I have and the lens that I have and the the outside speed that, whatever shutter speed that my camera happens to have, whatever conditions I'm working with, as well as the light, the ambient light that I'm working with. So I have to keep all of those things in mind. And I suppose I'm just a bit more challenged by that. And that engages me more. And sometimes frustrates
I
me
was going to
more
say,
too.
that was going to be my next question. Does it also frustrate you that I wish I'd taken that on a digital camera because I would have called it the way I wanted, and it hasn't sometimes quite worked out?
Oh, yeah, but I guess I'm all about the experimentation.
Yeah,
I tend to post a lot of my failures on Blue Sky too.
yeah,
And so a lot of times things just don't work for me that I had hoped would work, um and that's okay because that's I'm a teacher, that's what I do for a living. I teach English, and I remind my students that learning is messy, you know.
yeah,
Learning is not without friction, nor should it be, and that's one of the challenges of teaching in this AI powered era, right? Is that now um, friction is no longer necessary, difficulty is no longer necessary. It can all come instantly and without any sort of difficulty. And that's not what learning should be. Learning should present us with some challenge to overcome, so that when we arrive at the solution, we feel a sense of accomplishment,
yeah,
a sense of attainment. That's the payoff. That's where we get the dopamine hit. That's where we're
yeah,
like, "Ooh, give me some more of that,"
yeah,
and we want to do it again, and we want to try again. And I think that, I really do believe there's kind of um, two orientations to learning. There's sort of a growth orientation where we believe that we learn through our mistakes. And then there is sort of a performance orientation, and that performance orientation says, um, I have to look good. It's more important to look good than to learn, you know?
yeah,
So it matters what grade I get or how nice the pictures, whether or not the pictures are Instagram worthy, not whether or not my skills are improving, as a photographer. And so, um, I'm really trying to grow my skills, and that's kind of a messy process and a slow process, and so, um, and it really does happen through trial and error, and, um, and that's okay.
yeah.
And
No,
it
no,
is
no,
frustrating sometimes.
I'm a big believer in, look, you can learn so much from books, tutorials, people, all the rest of it. But time behind the lens is what I always say is there's no bigger teacher. Take your photos, review them, look at what you like, what worked, what hasn't worked, what would you differently next time, go again, and then repeat and repeat and repeat until and I don't think there is ever yeah, we're all human. We're never going to think of ourselves as, or nor should we think of ourselves as, I've got it now, or it's perfect, it's done. It's progression. It's always about progression, progress. And even when you regress, stand back up again. What's changed? What have I done differently this time that I could do and move forward and learn more? And I kind of get what you're saying. It's achieving those little goals and those little steps and those little improvements, despite the odds, I'd say, with film sometimes, and despite the light, and despite the cameras, and despite all the challenges that come with it. So no, I completely agree with that. And um, the other thing I was going to ask you, actually, because you mentioned your student, you said English, right? Is what you
Yes,
teach.
yes, I
But I
teach
did
college
notice you
writing.
you you seem to send your students out on some sort of photographic assignments, or is that something?
I do, yeah.
Yeah,
I started to collect, well, there are two different types of photo assignments I've given my students. One is a film-related assignment, and one is a digital-related assignment. The digital assignments were sort of the first assignments that I did. Last I guess last spring or so, I found a Polaroid snap camera in a thrift store that happened to work. And I don't know if you've seen those. Those are
No.
about 10 or 12 years old. They're a digital camera with a printer built in, and they print on zinc
Yeah.
paper, and
Yeah.
zinc is a thermal process paper. It's about half the price of Instax
Yeah.
film. But the downside is it's not as durable as Instax film. You know, it's a thermal process, so it does tend to, the colors are not as vivid as Instax, and they tend to degrade over time, right? But they're very cheap, right? so so there is that, right? And as a result, I sort of thought, this is a fun thing to play with, this little digital camera. And I started to find them online for really, because, they've been long discontinued. I started to find them online for really cheap, for like $10 or so, plus shipping. And so I started to collect them, and I got a little collection of about a dozen of them. And I found a source on eBay of the I don't want to call it film, the paper, the zinc
Yeah.
paper, for really inexpensive, for less, but maybe about half of the usual going price. And I collected a bunch of the paper. And so the first thing I did was I threw a little photo walk for my friends. And we had a little party, and we got together, and we all went out to a local park, and I loaded up these cameras with the zinc paper. And I said, okay, we have an hour, and I want you to all go out, and I want you to take 10 images, and you're going to come back, and we're going to sort of put all our images together, and we're going to have a little photo contest, and we'll give out prizes to the winners of the photo contest. And so we did that. We had a little photo contest and voted for the winner, and there were little prizes. And then at the end, we actually did a little photo swap, sort of like comparing or swapping baseball cards or something. And then we had snacks and drinks, and it was a great time. And from that was born the idea, well, this is something I could do with my students. And so the following fall, that was last summer, and the following fall, I sent my students out, and I didn't have enough cameras to give a camera to every student, so I had to pair them up.
Yeah.
And so I would put a pack of 10 uh, papers, film paper and zinc papers into the camera, and I would say, you each get 5 images. Go take a walk, take 5 images, come back, and then they would pick one of the images to write a journal about. And then they would tell me about their photo walk experience, what they saw, what they did, what happened, why they chose the image that they did. And they would tell me a little bit about how they normally take pictures, with what sort of instruments, what sort of tools they use to take those pictures, why they normally take pictures, that sort of thing. And then because the zinc paper is also a sticker, they would stick the photo onto the sheet of paper that they were writing their journal on, and they would turn it in. And then I told them the other 4 images were theirs to keep, so they would get a little souvenir
Yeah.
from their photo walk. And they really enjoyed this exercise. They really liked it quite a lot. And I really enjoyed kind of seeing the campus through their eyes, because they would find really novel things to take pictures of. And some of them got really strikingly good photographs. Given the very limited tools, the Polaroid snaps are 10 megapixel cameras, so they're not great, Um, and I should say, because they're like 12 years old now, they don't always work really, really well. Sometimes the paper gets jammed, and the students would have to kind of run back to the classroom and say, my camera's not working, and I have to sort of troubleshoot and figure it out for them. But eventually, it would get done. But that was the digital photo walk that I would send students on, and it was really enjoyable. But this last fall, we were talking about AI earlier and the challenges of learning in the era of AI. I had gotten so frustrated with receiving AI generated papers from students that I decided to do a fully analog semester with my English 101 students. And by analog, I meant not just the writing of the papers, but that all the learning that we did would be about analog technologies. And so I designed 3 modules, one about photography, film photography, one about analog music, talking about vinyl and cassettes and that sort of thing, and radio, and also writing using fountain pens and paper and blue books and
Yeah.
doing paper and typewriters. I also collect. So I'm a fountain pen aficionado and I'm a typewriter aficionado as well. So I go full analog.
Yeah.
And so I got a grant, a couple of grants from my college to fund this this little project. And I kind of out of my own pocket, I bought a bunch of little Bell and Howell um, plastic fantastic 28 millimeter fixed focus, 35 millimeter that are very simple, like they're just point and shoot. You don't need to do anything. So they're great for people who've never used a film
Yeah.
camera, who don't know anything about using a film camera. All you do, but they're daylight only, right? There's no flash built in. So you have to, so I did that, and I got a grant and we got like Kodak Ultramax film. So 400 ISO film, and stuck that in the cameras. And so the grant paid, I bought the cameras, the grant paid for the film, the grant paid for the processing, the grant paid for the printing and the mounting. And so we had the students go out and take photos in their communities that represented to the students family, community, or belonging. That's what they were trying to photograph. And so they went out into their neighborhoods, their schools, their churches, their homes, wherever they could, wander. And they took some amazing photographs. They really did, with these very limited little
Yeah.
cameras, very limited little cameras. They took amazing photographs. And I got several of my colleagues to be the jury, and we had a photo contest. And the winners of the photo contest won cameras. I collected some old SLRs and fixed them up, and put together a kit with like film and a little gift certificate for the uh, film processing at the local lab that processed the film for the project. And we put on an art exhibit, photo exhibit in the student lounge, and around Thanksgiving in November. And it was quite the success. We had quite a few people show up for the opening of the exhibit, and the students were really proud to see their work
Yep.
up on the wall. They got to pick one photograph off of their 36 image roll. And what was really ironic was, these are students who are digital natives who take thousands of pictures all the time, and many of them didn't finish their 36 image roll. They said they had a hard time taking 36 pictures. I think they sort of psyched themselves out. I think they sort of, they were afraid to take the pictures. They were afraid to commit to them. And
Do you know what analogy I'd give to that? It's if you go shopping and you don't really have any money, you'll see thousands of things you want to buy. Someone gives you a £50, $50 gift voucher and says, go buy yourself something. Suddenly you know you're limited, and you think, I have to get the right thing or the only thing. It's that's the analogy I'd use for that.
Yeah, I think that's apt. And some of them really struggled to fill up the roll of film. And so I got a note back from the lab that said, half of these rolls were blank or half blank. They weren't even full. And I looked at them, and sure enough, and my students were so thrilled I gave them their negatives back, and they'd never seen film negatives before. And they were just holding them up to the light, and they were like, there's pictures on there. And I said, yeah, where do you think your pictures come from? And they were like, how do you get photos off of this though? And I had to explain to them about, how they scan them, and that's where their digital
Can you imagine
files
if you gave them
came
positive
from.
film?
Oh no! Oh, that would have really blown their minds.
It would have blown the budget completely out the roof. But can you imagine the look in their face?
There would have been no way. As it was a miracle we got this funded at all,
Yeah.
because it did cost quite a bit of money
I'm sure, yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
I did 2 classes. That was 40 students. And so it was film processing and printing and mounting for 40 students. And so,
Yeah, that's a
as you
lot.
can imagine, it was not cheap.
No.
But
Yep.
it was so worthwhile because these students were really excited about it. Of course, they had to wait a month to get their pictures back. And can you imagine, you know, 16 to 22-year-olds waiting a month
Yeah.
to get to see pictures? It's just like unimaginable.
No.
And by the time they get their pictures back, I think they'd forgotten what they'd actually
What they've
taken.
taken photos of, yeah.
Done that before.
Yeah. But yeah, we had a whole semester. We had, once we were done with the film photography project, we moved on to listening to. I gave them AM/FM radios, and they had to spend a week listening to radio, and not getting to like skip to their next favorite song on their streaming service. And I gave them fountain pens that they got to keep, and I made them type on manual typewriters, and so they had a whole semester of antiquated experiences.
Or reconnecting.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Hopefully they've got a nice appreciation for it, because there is something nice about all of that analog stuff. I've got a fountain pen here. I've got, Sandeep and I like analog watches, and there's something about analog that just, hopefully that they got an appreciation of anyway.
Yes, and that is my hope, that and I tried to really frame it that way, that I'm trying to get them to slow down and connect to the very visceral acts of writing and listening and seeing in ways that maybe they've gotten away from or never did.
Never had. Yeah.
Never had the opportunity to do. And they actually did turn essays in on Blue Books. And I don't know if in England you guys ever
Is that
had
like a
Blue
text-
Books,
some
or if
sort of
that was
textbook?
kind of a specifically American thing, but they were simply ruled notebook paper stapled together in a blue cover, and they were given in colleges. You had to go down to the bookstore to buy them when you were made to take an essay exam in a class, and that way the teacher would be assured that you didn't smuggle any notes in.
Yeah.
And you
I think, Martin, that might be, I don't know what they called them at your schools. We used to call them exercise books. Exactly
Yeah,
that.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Plain
same
or
thing, same
lined.
concept. We just
And they
called
were,
them Blue
funny
Books
enough,
because they
blue
were
cover
blue.
as well. And they used to have a
Yeah.
little table at the front on the top. You'd put your name, your class number, and subject.
Well, the company that here in the US that still makes them, since AI kicked off in 2022, is enjoying a resurgence. The company is blowing up because colleges across the country are starting to return to Blue Books.
Yeah.
Right.
For that reason. Yeah.
So let's get back to your photography.
Yeah.
How would you describe, and I say this carefully because not everybody has style, but what type of photography or style of photography would you say you enjoy, aspire to?
Gosh, well, I think I am sort of I think I'm sort of I'm not young, but I'm a young photographer. I'm new
Yeah.
again to photography. And so I'm sort of in search of a style, I think, really. I'm trying a lot of things on to try to see what feels good to me and what I enjoy. And so I've been trying a lot of tools and a lot of film and in various formats. And I enjoy many different things and many different subjects. I haven't done a lot of portrait photography. I've done very little of that, actually. Um, and I suppose my primary subjects have been quite mundane, because that's sort of been what's accessible to me oftentimes. I kind of have, when I go out to test cameras or test a film, a new film, I often go out to the same test subjects that are sort of like what's
Like a
been available to me
consistency
in my
test.
neighborhood, you know, and I kind of go around to the same traffic signs and the same fire hydrants and the same manhole covers and the same park benches and the same trees, and and there's some benefit in that, because when I use different cameras or different film to capture those same subjects, I can see what the differences are from camera to camera, film to film, or lighting condition to lighting condition, or lens to lens, and that's nice, So I don't really mind the fact that I'm doing the same things. But I've also had another limitation this past year, and that is that in December I had a knee replacement. So my timing to kind of come back to photography meant that over the past year, my mobility has been somewhat limited. So leading up to the knee surgery, I was in a lot of pain, so I couldn't get out and do a lot of walking. And
Yeah.
then since the knee surgery, I've been recovering, and so I'm gradually getting my mobility back, but I'm still not able to walk long distances, so I'm not able to really go far afield like I'd like to. And I'm
Yeah.
hoping by summer, I'll be doing more and more and more walking. 'Cause that's really what I like to do. I like to go out in the woods.
Yeah.
I Right behind the complex where I live, there's a state park, and if I walk out into the woods, a quarter mile, I'm down by a river, and so there's a lot of natural beauty to be had very close to me. I just have to get down a very steep hill
Right.
Yeah.
to get
Yeah.
there,
And then
and
have to
if
get
I
back
can
up it
do
again.
and then I have to get back up it, yes. So if I can manage that, then I can manage some lovely photographic opportunities. There's bald eagles that
Oh, wow.
nest on the river, and so there's I have a lot available to me. I just need to get there. But as far as style go, I wouldn't call myself. I've done a little street photography, but I wouldn't call myself a street photographer. I've done a little portraiture, but I wouldn't call myself
Yeah.
a portrait photographer. I've done a little architectural photography, but so I've done a little bit of all of these things. I've tried them all on. But I guess I'm none of the above specifically. I think I'm enjoying doing a little of all of it, really.
And you seem to
Yeah.
experiment a lot with your developers and or developing film now as well. So
Yes,
is that
yes.
kind
Well,
of adding a new aspect and a new layer to where you want to get to?
yeah, I really decided I like caffeinol quite a lot. And I know it's not everybody's first choice for sure, but I like it because it's not toxic and I can flush it down the drain,
Yeah.
and I don't have to hang on to it and take it to the dump, and that sort of thing. And the ingredients are easily, had at the grocery store. And other than a couple of instances, I've had really good luck with it. So, it's given me some very nice pictures. So I think why not? It seems to be more or less pretty consistent. It tends
Yeah.
to be pretty contrasty, but I kind of like contrasty, so that
I'm
Oh,
works
a
for
big
yeah,
me.
fan.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love a bit of contrast.
Yeah. Yeah, I've only, interesting. I went from using Cinestill's monobath, which everybody seems to hate, right? If you talk to people about that monobath, like you just don't use that stuff. That's terrible. And it worked fine for me. I had no problems with it. But I went straight from that to Caffeinol, which I think is kind of an interesting transition. So I've not used any of the conventional um,
Yeah.
developers, I haven't used the Rodinal, I haven't used the
Yeah, I
HC110, I
think
haven't.
I think Rodinal was the one I started off with. I mean, I haven't developed a roll of film in probably about 6 or 7 years, but I think I started off with Rodinal and then I went to Xtol. I think that's the only ones I've used. I'm not particularly experimental. I tend to stick to the once I've got something that works, I'll just stick to it. Yeah, yeah. But,
I
yeah.
like
So is
playing
it?
with different formats too, film formats. I love
Yeah.
110, I love half frame, and as well as 120 and and 35 millimeters. So I'm
Haven't
not.
tried. Haven't tried large format yet.
Oh no, I because of my size limitations where I
Mm,
am, I think large format will
yeah.
remain
Yeah.
not on the table.
No, I've not. I've avoided large formats so far as well. Medium formats the largest I've gone so far.
Yeah, I think that'll probably be the case for me. I have
Yeah.
done the respooling. Uh, is it 620 film? Where you have to respool 120 film onto the skinnier spools? That's 620, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think that sounds about right.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. It's basically it's the same exact film, it's just different spools.
Yeah.
And so I've done that with it's a Kodak Brownie. Yeah, it's 620. Kodak Brownie Flash 620, an old Brownie camera. And so I've done that, and I've done 127 format as well. But that you have to either buy that film or cut that film down, and the buying it, I didn't love the pictures well enough to want to keep buying the film. It's kind of expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So is black and white a sort of a preference, or is a cost thing? Because obviously color film these days is very, very expensive. So is that something you sort of just prefer, the black and white, or is it cost?
Well, I suppose, yes, I'd done a lot of bulk rolling of film. In fact, I've got 100 feet of black and white in the fridge waiting to be bulk rolled, and I haven't bulk rolled it yet. But I've also got a lot of rolls of color film in the fridge waiting to be shot. So I think it's fair to say I've got plenty of both types of film in the fridge. I guess maybe I just really enjoy black and white film. I'm not sure what it is. Um, Maybe it's because the developing is so easy that there's sort of I guess the closest to instant gratification that you're going to get with all of this.
Yeah.
And there's something to that. And so I just lean towards it a bit more. I'm not,
Yeah.
I haven't had time enough to really think about that and establish for myself why I find myself leaning more to black and white than color. And I'm also playing a lot with instant film these days, but I'm playing with both instant color and instant monochrome films as well.
Yeah, I seem to. I don't know about you, Sandy, but I sort of sway from one side to the other. For ages, I really love black and white, and then suddenly I'm really into color again for a while. And I shoot all color, and then I swing back to black and white. So I don't tend to sort of like have quick swings. I don't. I shoot color and black and white. It's like all color or all black and white for a period of time, and I like. There's something about both, I think, that I like, but it seems to be at different times. I
think for me,
switch.
it's subject matter slightly. I also tend to shoot more black and white in the winter and color in the summer, which I just think it's the light and the colors popping in the sunshine and all the rest of it. Whereas black and white, I don't mean it's a bleak film, but you've got these sort of different view that color doesn't work when you've got the grey skies, and whereas with black and white you can probably find a little bit more. I think I find it harder to shoot black and white, even though it should be simpler because it's just two colors. I think because it's two colors, it's actually harder to shoot. Because for me, with color, you've got something to hook on, which is based on the color and based on the scene in the color or where there's matches. Whereas black and white, you really got to concentrate on light, shadow, and where everything is sort of falling. But yeah, I do. I tend to shoot more black and white in the winter, more color in the summer, for no particular reason other than it's nice and bright. So I suddenly want to go out with a nice bright film. And I keep it as simple as that, really.
Where I struggle with color is in the scanning. Like, I'm much better at scanning black and white than I am at scanning color.
Color is really difficult to scan, I find. Yeah. What kind of scanner do you use?
I have two scanners. I've got an Epson V600 and I've got a PlusTech 8200i AI. And the PlusTech, I can do 35 millimeter, I can do half frame, and I can do 110. And then, of course, if I want to do 120, I do that on my Epson V600.
Yeah, I had an Epson V550, which is the one slightly lower or slightly older than the V600, and yeah, color just. And I think it seemed to be as the scanner got older, the scans got worse. You have to keep that glass really clean, or you start getting lines across it. And yeah, I gave up in the end scanning. I just thought, I'm going to send it. One, because I don't shoot enough these days. At one point, I was shooting all the time, so I had lots of films. I was developing my own, or sending off the color. I never developed my own color, but scanned all my own stuff because it's sort of like it was worth having it on my desk because I was using it all the time. Now I don't shoot so much. It's not worth having it. It's taking up so much space on my desk with a scanner, so I don't do it myself. But yeah, became very difficult. But yes, black and white's much easier to scan, I find.
Well, it's almost worth it to me to like pay the lab to scan for me because they do such a much better job than I do. I mean, they've got equipment that's far better than anything I have, and they do it all the time. They know what they're doing, and I'm a rank amateur when it comes to the scanning piece. And but black and white is easier for me. There's fewer balls in the air to juggle there, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
So have you got any favourite cameras at the moment that you sort of leaning towards, or is it just just picking out some things and experimenting still?
Oh well, the Argus C3 Matchmatic has kind of captured my attention. I think part of it's that mid-century aesthetic that it has, and that just unlikely, unergonomic, kind of boxy ridiculousness that it is, but it also that chrome and bakelite, it's an interesting camera. And then of course it uses the Matchmatic uses the EV system instead of shutter speeds. It's you've got to know the EV system in order to set your shutter speeds. And so I'm kind of having to learn its little sort of proprietary system. I also have a Kodak Pony 4 that's like that. You have to know the EV system to figure out how to set it.
Me being one of those people.
And it's also a pretty cool looking camera. What's that? I'm sorry.
Me being one of those people, what's the EV system?
What's that?
What is the EV system? I have no idea. So let's.
So
I'm going to assume some of our listeners don't either. So.
Exposure value system. So like that's. This is one of those questions that you have to ask Zed on Blue Sky. He'll explain it all to you.
Right.
I think it's numbered like 0, which is like pitch black, to like the top end is like 16. I think this is like, and so that's like the brightest, sunniest possible, like sunlight on snow, kind of brightness, and everything all the gradients in between. So it's all the values of light in between.
I might be wrong, and I might be imagining this, but I think on the front of Hasselblad lenses there is an EV number, you can, and some light meters have an EV number on it when you do it. So you can say it's EV3, and you just set the lens to that value, and it can be any combination of the right aperture and shutter speed to make that EV number. It might not be on all the Hasselblad lenses. I'm sure it's on the 80mm. They've got an EV number on it. So next time you get your Hasselblad out, check it on there.
I've got one of those. I've not really looked at it, obviously, to see what it is.
You'll probably look at it and go, no, there isn't. What are you talking about?
There probably is.
Well, there's a little light meter that comes with the Matchmatic and I'm trying to figure out how to use it, but basically, if you have to like look where the needle, first of all, it assumes the little meters, it's a selenium cell meter, and so you're assuming it's still working properly. But if it is, and I think the one that I have is still working properly, you have to sort of add up the values, and the values add up to the EV value. And so it's the shutter speed value that's printed on the camera plus the f-stop value, which the f values are not true f values. They give them sort of proprietary values.
Right.
And so but they're designed to add up to EV values. So you kind of have to, in order to use the Argus, you kind of have to know EV, at least the Matchmatic, which is
Yeah.
the one that's the two-tone camera that was put out in the 50s. You have to kind of know the EV system to use the camera, which is a little bit of a pain in the butt, but um, I guess maybe that's part of the appeal to me, is that it's
Yeah.
not so easy to use. You've kind of just gotta you
Yeah.
gotta fight through it a little bit to get to the good stuff. But I'm sort of enjoying that. And I guess the camera that always has my heart, I'm a Yashica girl, I guess, because my entry into cameras was the Yashica. And so I have my Yashica FX7. I have the Yashica Samurai, which I love, that crazy, weird half frame camera. It's it's
I think I've
such a
seen it.
bizarre camera. I love that one a lot. And I feel like I have another Yashica camera, but I'm forgetting which one it is now. But anyway, um, I definitely have those two. And
Great.
but I am a big proponent of Yashicas.
Not their new rebranded ones.
No.
Which is
No,
taking
no, no, no. The
No,
classic.
the classic.
Definitely the
when they were a
classic.
The real
proper,
ones.
when they were a proper camera company.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Back when
Exactly.
they were making real cameras. Yes.
Well, that's amazing, and thank you for sharing all that with us. And Martin, why don't you give us a little update on Photowalks coming up and what's going on out in the world?
Yeah, this is the bit where people turn off because they're not really interested, but we'll do it anyway. We've actually, so this today's Monday, and this is going to come out on Friday the 24th. And the this weekend, so the 25th and 26th, we've got the most photo walks we've ever had
Wow.
on a weekend. There's loads of them. I think it's possibly because it's Pinhole Day. Well, Pinhole Day on the Sunday. So we've got, there's about 3 or 4, I think, Pinhole Day photo walk. So, yeah, so I'll go through some of them. So we've got the Peanuts, Pig Iron and Pints with Billy Sanford in Birmingham, Alabama on the 25th at 8 o'clock in the morning. Then we've got...
Hold up, stop. 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I know. I don't know who's going on a photo walk at 8 o'clock in the morning. I
Fair
never
enough.
go on any photo walks at that time in the morning because I can't get anywhere by that time in the morning.
Yeah, there is a commuting issue. For that,
Exactly.
for most people.
I'd have to
Also,
stay overnight.
did you say there were pints involved at 8 o'clock in the morning?
Well, yeah, this exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's well, you know, why not? I'm hoping it's an all day thing, and it's going to end on pints. Because if it started on pints, we're going to be it's going to be a squiffy old photo walk.
And sorry, but did you just say squiffy?
Yes.
Okay, keep going.
I don't know where that came from. I don't think I've ever said
No
that
idea.
before, but I think that's rather than saying something a bit more cruder, I think.
Fair enough.
Then there's an architectural photography walk on the Thames with Kevin Hendrick, also on the 25th at 10 o'clock. Then there's a pinhole photo walk in Edinburgh with Lawrence Willis, also on the 25th. I don't know why I keep saying the 25th because these are all the 25th until I say the 26th. There's a long exposure photo walk in Long Beach with Victor de la Ossa at 6 p.m. Then there's a match day street photography photo walk in Norwich, the Shoot Film Norwich group, 1 o'clock. Then Peggy Marsh has got a Bluebell Wood Wander in, is that Ilkley? I can't read. In Ilkley. That's on the 26th. So now we're on to the 26th. And that was all on the 25th, which is amazing. Then we've got the Pinhole Day in Cromer. That's also run by Shoot Film Norwich. They're doing two in a row, 2 days in a row, which is they're going to be busy. Yeah. Then there's a Pinhole Day experimental flash and blur workshop and walk with Heather Hughes. And then there's another 2 things going on in Edinburgh. It's a busy weekend for certain places. There's a Shooters GR Stories photo walk with Giannis, who does a range of photo walks all over the world, really. And then our friend Tom Warland is Almost in Focus podcast, doing a Pinhole Day in Leamington Spa. And then finally, because I'm running out of breath, is a Pinhole Photography Day walk with Yant, somebody else who's been on the podcast. So there's lots of people that we know are doing photo walks this weekend coming. So, I think some of them are probably booked out, but you can probably get on the waiting list, and some of them probably got some spaces. So check it out in the usual place.
Martin, it's a bit embarrassing that we constantly have people that are on the show put on photo walks, and you and I
don't
haven't done for a while.
Not for a while, yeah. I mean, I have done probably about 25 photo walks in the past, so I think I deserve a little bit of a break from it. But
okay, then it's just me.
Yeah, it's just you. But yeah, so it's a busy weekend, which is really good. I think it's definitely one of the busiest weekends we've had in a long while on the website. So that's good. Plenty of things for people to be doing. So get onto the website photowalk.me. What else can we talk about? Oh yes. Ask people to leave reviews. So made me laugh last week. So on Spotify, we had two 5-star ratings on Spotify, which possibly might have been self put in. But our average rating went down to 3.7 on a third review. Rating. So they, with my little calculator, I worked out that means they gave us a 1 star. So, somebody hated us enough to give us a 1 star, which is mad. I think, well, just turn it off if you don't like it, but never mind. So please get our average back up and give us a review on Spotify if you listen to it. Well, you can give us a 4 star if you want. 4 stars and above only. If it's 1 star,
Martin, you can't tell people what
can we
stars
not?
to give us.
Surely we can. Surely we can ask people nicely to give us 4s or 5 stars. I'm not asking much. Yeah, that's it for things we've got on at the moment. Yes, thank you, Mary Jo, for coming on. That's it for this episode.
It's been a really, really, really interesting talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed talking to both of you.
Yeah, I really enjoyed talking to you too. That's it. Thank you for listening. If you have any comments or questions, please email us on podcast@photowalktalk.net. Make sure you subscribe to get new episodes as and when they are released, and leave reviews if you fancy it. Thank you, and bye-bye. Cheers. Bye-bye.